Okay? Okay, guys. Now, here I am just talking about, I'm not going into the other details of occlusion. See, occlusion we have covered in 2-3 places. Right? We have it one chapter here, one chapter in CD, one chapter in DADH. Okay, wherever it applies in whatever way it has been covered that way. Now, here I'll be just talking about which cusp we reduce in case of interferences. Right? Okay. So, first rule. First rule is do not remove a cusp structure that you need for other movements. You know it, right? It's B. It has to be B. Okay? So, yeah. So first rule, so let's gather up, guys. Let's focus on to here now. I don't want you all to be sneaking around bringing more questions for me. I'll be there answering your questions. Put it out in forum, okay? And anyways, we can have more classes for that. Yeah. So main thing is, for example, I'll actually use other whiteboard for this thing. Okay, this is your cross section of the occlusion, right? Now, there are 3 types of movements. One is your centric occlusion itself. Okay, you need to have proper contact during your centric occlusion. Second thing is your lateral excursion, working side. Okay, so if we just move your mandible on this side, we all have already seen that only mandible moves, right? So if you move your mandible on this side, okay, this is your working side and this will become your balancing side. So this is your working and this is your balancing. Okay, if you all are clear with this point, okay, you will notice that teeth are in contact in centric occlusion. They are supposed to come in contact in lateral excursions, and also there are some teeth that will come in contact in your balancing side. So in all the contacts, we cannot reduce one cusp, which is going to be used in other contacts also. For example, one cusp is causing interference in centric occlusion, but that cusp will also be needed in lateral excursion. In that particular case, we can simply not reduce that cusp. That's the first rule. Get the point? Keep telling me so that I can move on. Okay? So if the cusp is high in centric, lateral and balancing, if the cusp is high in all 3 scenarios, then of course you can grind the cusp. Okay? This will also include your functional cusp. If your functional cusp is high in all the 3 excursions, you can grind it. Right? Every time you solve a problem, draw the diagram. That will make the solution easy to understand. Okay? So rather than going theoretic basis, we'll be going ahead with problems. Right? The first problem is the maxillary lingual cusp is high in centric but correct in working and balancing. What is the course of action? The maxillary lingual cusp, is it a functional cusp? So I have made, the functional cusp as red dots over here. Okay, we are talking about maxillary functional cusp, isn't it? Now it says it is high in centric. Where does it contact in centric? Where does your functional cusp contact in centric occlusion with the mandible? In this fossa, isn't it? In this fossa. In this particular case, can we grind the cusp? No, we cannot grind the cusp because it is not high in other excursion. It is only high in centric occlusion. So what is the thing that will grind? We'll deepen the fossa. Yes, we'll deepen the fossa. Perfect. Okay. Saurabh, if it was contacting a ridge, yes, we will grind the ridge. You're getting my point here. We are not grinding the cusp. We are grinding something that is opposing the cusp. Why we are not grinding the cusp? Because this cusp will come in contact with other positions also. Okay. So answer is deepen the mandibular fossa. If you grind the maxillary lingual cusp, it will no longer be correct in balancing and working position. Okay, because it was previously correct in those positions. Okay, the next problem. The maxillary lingual cusp is high in centric and working, but correct in balancing. Let's go back to the diagram. Okay. Maxillary lingual cusp. This is the maxillary lingual cusp. Isn't it? So maxillary lingual cusp, when we talk about the working side, where it contacts, this will go on this side, on your right, this will go on to your right, it will contact the mandibular buccal on the working side. Yeah, but what is the cusp it will contact? The mandibular buccal. But was the working side a problem? Was the working side a problem? No, working side was not a problem. Okay, the problem was balancing side. Now let's see what is happening on the balancing side. This cusp is moving towards right. Movement is towards right, right? We have decided we'll consider movement towards right, isn't it? Where is it contacting when it goes towards right? Yes, it is contacting the lingual cusp of mandibular molars. Which slope? The facial slope of or buccal slope of the lingual cusp. Lingual cusp is a non-working cusp. We can grind that. And it is, it is only during this excursion there is a problem. So we can grind this cusp, and if the question is, you don't have to be confused, you have to follow it. It's one step, it's just where it is going. See that, let me write the problem. Ek step check karo. Centric was right, isn't it? You know what? Before I start explaining you give up. Before I start explaining, you give up. If you are decided not to learn, we can think that, okay, chalo Ram bharose chhod dete. But if you feel that I have to understand, then you will understand. So you can tell me that, ma'am, I have not yet understood. But please don't tell me that, ma'am, I have totally not understood, or I am totally gone, now I'll never understand, and like that. Okay, the first thing is, don't start with a negative feeling. Okay, it will never work out. First step समझ में आया था. First step you got it right. The centric occlusion part. Okay. The second scenario में we have proper contract in centric and working side. Okay, what I have done for you in this diagram is, we have made one scenario wherein we know where is the centric. We know that working side is, we have decided that we will consider working side on the right. Okay. And when we are considering working side on the right, where is your mandible, you know, this particular jaw moving? Obviously, आधा jaw तो move होगा नहीं ना. Whole jaw is moving towards right, isn't it? Isn't it? So all you have to imagine is, when this particular thing is moving here, just see where the cusp would be going. Just imagine where the cusps are going. That's what you have to do. So in centric, no movement. Centric mein anyways there was no problem. So we are not talking about centric. The problem is in working. Problem is in balancing. So we start working to have a balancing contact, isn't it? So we are moving this jaw towards right, isn't it? Which was the cusp, which was the high point? What was your question? Your maxillary lingual cusp. Okay. So now imagine your maxillary lingual cusp. I did a mistake. That's why you're not understanding. I noted the problem wrong. Okay. So centric and balancing is correct. Working is wrong. Okay. So when we move this thing, you know, when in the balancing side, what happens is your jaw is moving towards this side, right side. Okay, when your jaw is moving towards this side, your red dot will come in contact with red dot. Isn't it? And here your red dot will come in contact with blue dot on working side. No, why are you touching? Now which are the cusps which are contacting? Which are the cusps which are, you know, interfering? This red dot with this blue dot, right? Now red dot is functional, blue dot is non-functional. Which one you grind? Blue dot, right? So now you get the point, right? Basically, if you have a choice that you can do not, you know, if you have a choice between functional and non-functional, in that particular case, you always grind non-functional. Okay. Now if the question is more precise, let me draw the two slopes of this functional cusp. Okay. One is the blue slope and one is the orange slope. If the question is more precise, you know the interference, right? Interference is on working side between the red dot cusp and blue dot cusp. If you are supposed to grind the slope, blue slope or orange slope? All of you got that point that we are grinding the blue slope? Now can you name the blue slope? Let me finish with them, Saurabh, I'll come back to you. It's a buccal slope of palate. Pura batao na, it's not only buccal slope. It's a buccal slope of lingual cusp. Yes. Okay. Now, Saurabh, what you are asking is why the red and blue will contact when on the working side when we are going towards the. See, working side, you're moving your mandible outwards. You're moving your mandible outwards. So this is the working side. You're moving your mandible outwards. So this cusp will go with the mandible, and obviously it will grind against this cusp, right? Get it? So clear with this question. Now if I go back to the question, when we go back to the question, now as we move on to the problem 3rd and 4th, now slowly you will get used to it, imagination. So don't worry, okay, this is just the second one. Now if you look at the question, are you able to imagine and work it out? First thing, are you able to draw this diagram? Okay, so you draw a maxilla, you draw a mandible. Then you put the red dots. Oh, I put the red dot wrong, right? Put the red dots correctly. And then you put the blue dots in non-working cusps. Am I right? All clear? Now, centric mein when you check your red dots, okay, in centric relation, only your red dots can interfere. Your blue dots will be anyways hanging outside, right? So your blue dots will anyways not interfere, will they? No, they're anyways hanging outside. Your red dots can interfere. If the red dots interfere only in centric, you grind the fossa. If they're not interfering in centric, and they are interfering in working direction, okay? Now working side is this. So where this red dot will come in contact with this blue dot on the working side, isn't it? So you will touch the blue dot. And which side of the blue dot? Whichever side is coming in contact. So which side is coming in contact is the inner side that is coming in contact, isn't it? Which slope of the non-functional cusp? The one which is coming in contact. Okay? Grind the mandibular lingual cusps. Okay? Actually, you do not high in centric also. Okay, I just made it. Since it is high in centric now, I didn't read the question properly actually. The main thing is here. It is high in centric, so we have to grind the fossa also, and it is high in working also, right? So grind the fossa and the mandibular lingual cusp. Okay? Hopefully you're clear with that. All of you? Yeah. The problem 3rd is maxillary buccal cusp is in hyper relationship with the lower buccal cusp in working. Let's go back again and see. We are talking about the working side, and we are talking about both the buccal cusp. We are talking about maxillary buccal. Let's draw it in maxillary buccal in green dot. Okay, on the working side, your green dot is contacting your red dot. What do you grind? Yes, you grind the green dot because it is non-functional. Let's go back and check the question again. The maxillary buccal cusp is in hyper relationship with the lower buccal cusp in working. So it's only talking about one thing. So yes, we are grinding the green dot, that is the maxillary buccal cusp. So grind the upper buccal cusp. You can grind the, if you grind the lower buccal cusp, what will happen? Centric relation will be affected, isn't it? Clear? Yeah. On the working side, these two are interfering, he said. Both the buccal were interfering on the working side. Got it, Sora? Clear? Yeah. Now, if we make it more precise, if we make the question more precise, which slope of the green cusp are you gonna grind? The palatal, the inside cusp slope, isn't it? Okay, don't be hasty in answering, yeah. You're doing like me. Okay. Clear? See, now you guys are getting the hold of it. Now let's go to the next question. The maxillary lingual cusp is hyper with the lower lingual cusp in working side. Okay, let's go back to the this thing. Have you just took down the question or imagined it? So both the lingual are in contact on working side. So we are talking about red and blue. Which one do we grind? Yes, the lingual cusp of mandible, and which slope? The buccal slope. So this is very straightforward. Clear? Clear? Yeah. Now, the next question. All clear till now? Yes. Now look at this, okay? Both the buccal and lingual cusp are high in working position. See, both the buccal and lingual are high. Listen, Uday, you don't need that information. How you don't need that information is, yeah, this red is in contact with this blue and this green is contact in with this red. In this thing, both the cusp combinations are high. That means you are grinding which one? Blue and green, isn't it? Yes, so you don't need that information. So don't panic, immediately don't reach to a conclusion. अरे सब कुछ तो बताया नहीं है. The question is incomplete. The question is wrong. Okay, we don't need that information. Okay, it says both the buccal and lingual cusp are high in working position. Okay, so okay, we consider, if I consider mandible, okay. Fine, let me consider anyone. Let me consider mandibular, buccal and lingual being high. Okay? In working position. So where is my mandibular buccal contacting? It will be contacting this green dot. And my mandibular lingual will contacting the red dot. Anything, I'll have to grind this blue and this green to remove these high points. Even if I consider maxillary, buccal and lingual being high, it's the result is same. Clear? Good. Okay. So all good till now. Got it. Now let's create more problem. Okay. Okay. You can't go into working side because on the balancing side, maxillary lingual cusp is hyper with the lower buccal cusp. Now the problem comes. Maxillary lingual is hyper with the lower buccal cusp. Right? Oops. Wait. I'm sorry to give you the answer. Now here the problem is, this red cusp on the balancing side is interfering with now the problem comes, both are red. Now what do we grind? this is a bigger problem. This is really a problem. Actually, in clinical situation also, this is a real problem. And to deal with this problem is a little tough. Here there comes a lot of many things. Yeah, that is one thing. Both little, but even if we grind both little, it will create imbalance of these cusps in centric, right? We try to limit our grinding to the slopes without touching the tips. We try to, we try to grind the touching slopes. But sometimes there is still a chance that we will not be able to remove the interference with that. Sometimes there is a chance that we have to choose one of those cusps. Then what do we do? Which one? If you are supposed to grind one of those, which one will you prefer grinding? Maxillary or mandible? Yes, we grind the mandibular one if we are supposed to choose one out of them. Why? Because your maxillary stands in the center of the mandibular ridge. And it has a more function or more important function of holding. Okay? So if you are given something to choose, then you go for grinding the mandibular and saving the maxillary. But otherwise, it depends on the situation that which one you choose. So this is a very tricky situation actually, clinically also. Okay. So here you would prefer not to grind either of the holding cusp. But you have to make a choice, isn't it? Grind the lower buccal cusp. The maxillary lingual cusp has more stabilizing influence because it forces over the crest of the ridge. Now, you know what? This situation is not dealt with most of the books. Okay. I had been reading this selective grinding from many places just to clarify this particular point. All the other points are very straightforward. But this particular point, there are very controversial thing about which cusp to grind. There are two scenarios given. Some of the authors say grind both. Some of them say grind maxillary. Grind mandibular. Do not touch the maxillary. Okay? And this is one of those justifications wherein they say that grind this thing. Okay? Clear? Now you tell me the answer. There is an anterior contact and no posterior contact. What do we grind? Yeah, when there is anterior contact, we grind the lingual surface of the upper anterior and the facial of the lower. You see now, which is contacting? What is contacting what? The contact is here, right? Here and here. So that is what we grind. The first one, we prefer deepening the fossa of this thing. But there is a limitation. You cannot deepen it till you actually go into the pulp, right? So that is where, either you grind this or this. The preferable is fossa, definitely. Okay, the lingual surface of the maxillary anterior is preferable, and then second choice is buccal side of the mandibular anterior. Clear? Yeah, all this selective grinding process, it's also considered in traumatic occlusion also. Although traumatic occlusion is again different controversy, forget about that right now. Posterior contact, no anterior contact. What are you going to do? What do you mean when you have posterior contact and no anterior contact? That means it's high in? Yeah, I know it's open wide. Basically, what we are expecting here is, see here, we are expecting the contact between the mesial inclines of the lower hitting the distal inclines of the upper. Let's just draw it, okay? Okay, see this, whenever we talk about the buccal and lower contacts, it is the mesial of the lower, let me draw it in green color, the mesial of the lower and the distal of the buccal that comes in contact, right? Now again, depending on which cusp is, see Dhara, here we are talking about side view. This is anterior and this is posterior. Here we are looking at it from the side. This view. Are you able to imagine? So if you notice, which will be the cusp? All the mesial sides will be contacting. You know, there is a interference in the anterior, right? So these mesial inclines and the buccal inclines are hitting each other. Sorry, mesial and the distal. Yeah, I'm just talking. Mesial inclines of the mandible and the distal inclines of the maxillary are hitting each other. Now again, if we are, which of the cusp is involved, depending on that we'll grind. We'll try to grind the inclines of non-holding cusp to achieve the anterior protrusive contract. Okay. See, what is happening is we are protruding, we are moving the jaw forward, the lower jaw forward. When we are moving the lower jaw forward, all the mesial inclines of the mandible will be rubbing against the distal inclines of the maxillary. Okay, so in that particular case, we'll be selecting to grind these sides of the slopes. We'll be selecting to grind the mesial sides of the cusps which are interfering in mandible. See how you will find which cusp is interfering? You will be using articulating paper. It's not that all the cusps are interfering, right? You will be using articulating paper to find out where the cusps are interfering. Asking the patient to make the protrusive movement. You will get wherever there is interference. What is MD buccal? Mandibular, okay. I was like making that MD as mesiodistal. I was like, what does it make sense? Mesiodistal buccal. It's mandibular buccal. Yes, basically, let me tell you, see, what we do is we take an articulating paper, ask the patient to make a protrusive movement, okay. Wherever there is interference, we'll get mark. Where we'll get mark? We'll get mark on both maxillary and mandible. Obviously, because two teeth are contacting, mark will be made on maxilla as well as on mandible, wherever there is high point, isn't it? Now, based on the mark, we will determine whether it is a functional cusp of maxillary or the functional cusp of mandibular that is involved, isn't it? So, whichever is a non-functional cusp is involved, we'll grind that. And which side slope will grind? Obviously, we'll grind the distal slopes of maxillary and mesial slopes of mandibular because they'll be the one contacting when the patient tries to move forward, the lower jaw. Clear? Okay. Anyway, till 7 it was like single diagram. Here we are moving, till 6 it was single diagram. Here we are moving anterior and posterior. So that is one different scene. Okay. Now here is one question from the national boards. Now you answer me this one. That's okay, nothing. You just read this question, Radhika. It's based on the previously discussed things, and answer me. We are talking about centric occlusion, isn't it? Mesiofacial cusp is it a holding cusp, it is a supporting cusp, or a functional cusp? Mandible. It's a functional cusp, so we cannot grind it. So we will grind the place where it is contacting, isn't it? Wherever it is contacting, whether it is contacting in fossa or is it contacting in anywhere, we'll be grinding that place. Get the point? Because it's in centric. It is not being in, Clear? Clear, guys? So you got the answer. Answer is 2. The marginal ridges of the maxillary first molar and the second premolar. Okay. So there are 2-3 things you need to know whenever we solve these questions. One is, try to know where the things are contacting. And again, for trying to know where the things are contacting, if you are able to draw the diagram, see, this is the mandibular maxillary first molar. Where does your mandibular fit? Isn't it? Then it is the premolar and then the premolar. You should be able to draw that and imagine that. Side view you should be able to draw in that cross section. Okay, that is very important, 2 diagrams, and please do not solve anything without drawing. Do not solve it without drawing. Okay, that's a rule. That's a rule to be right. So every time you come across a question, rather than imagining, please draw. It's very human to make mistake in this kind of imaginative things. I keep doing mistakes still, so it's okay. But if you draw and be careful, you will not make mistakes. Mistakes happen. Even when I do a mistake, it's because of carelessness. Not because of not knowing the things or not able to do it. If we do it carefully, it's gonna be right. Okay? So just do it carefully, apply these small rules, it will all be fine. Is it okay? Are you all clear with it? I'll just get this selective grinding recording separated from the pre-test and we'll put it up on in your CD section so that it's easy for you all to access. Okay? Okay guys, extended the class a little bit longer and sorry for that, but just got a chance to cover that up. Types of resin bonded bridges, those rochet bridges and all those things. Virginia bridges. It just, see those diagrams in Nalaswami and just read below the line. That's it. That will help you solve it. Don't start with I didn't understand. Start with I didn't yet understand. So you will understand. Okay, just try those, just go and look at those diagrams below it. Okay. Imagine that you are supposed to explain this to your younger sister. Attempt it once. You will be able to understand. They are very direct. Okay. And then if you have doubt, just post up what question you have. What exactly you didn't understand. What is the thing which is confusing you between the 2 bridges? You put that particular question. When you try to find out that question, I bet you will understand it. Okay. Okay guys. Keep reading. Don't be worried about need. It will all be okay. And we are going to have a lot of revision classes anyways upcoming. Okay. So take care.